It came out of the blue, the phone call. It was an invitation to come read alongside two other poets for an event celebrating Poetry Month and Earth Day in my hometown of Ypsilanti. They needed a third writer, and my business card had been passed on. The event was a week and a half away. I hadn't done a real-life gig since last summer, and I hadn't read my poetry in person ever. Also, I wasn't really a nature-based kind of poet. In fact, my poetry was created specifically to talk about modern life, late capitalism, and technology. But Aaron, the librarian who'd contacted me, reassured me that that subject matter was actually why he wanted me to come read. So I decided, why not? Let's do it. And so the preparations began. Whenever I get a gig, my perfectionism goes haywire. I do an intense round of rehearsals, reading the lines over and over again, getting the accents right, making a set list of poems, and then changing it a dozen times or so. On warmish days, I would even go outside and rehearse there. I actually had to force in some downtime so I wouldn't work myself ragged. But then the day came, and all I felt was excitement. The entire drive there, I kept thinking of Ypsilanti, or Ypsi as everyone calls it. I had spent my first 17 years there. It was a great place to grow up, a college town where my parents met each other and decided to stay. Sometimes I missed living there, being in that world, existing elsewhere. At times it was like a postcard come to life that you never really wanted to leave. Michigan Avenue is the life force of Ypsi, where most of everything that is everything in town sits. And right in the middle is the Ypsilanti District Library. I remember spending hours and hours there, picking dozens of books, wearing out my library card like nobody's business. Along with bookstores, it was my sanctuary, my place to be. And here I was, back to read my own work. It was surreal. Once inside, I gazed around in wonder. It looked different, but in an incredible way. There are no buildings like libraries. They're up there with churches and universities in their singular beauty and elegance. My Aunt Teresa was one of the few people who arrived early. I gave her my camera so she could record while I got myself together. I was going first, we decided. We being Desiree and Leslie, the two other poets of the event. They were both super friendly and made me feel at home. I admit, I was a little nervous in the beginning. Sometimes not being in front of people for a while does that to you. But before too long, I felt ultra comfortable and melted into my performances. I read 11 poems, spread out over all 3 of my collections. And with each poem, I tried to bring something different than the last. That's always my goal. Bring something new, give emotion, make people feel. And that's what happened. When it was over, I sat back down in a typical post-reading daze and watched as Desiree and Leslie gave their performances. Both of them were brilliant, revealing and capturing parts of their lives that felt both incredibly personal and absolutely relatable. I felt their words so strongly, so powerfully, realizing in those moments that no matter what people do or say, no matter how much people wish to discredit the art of literature, there is nothing like the strength and power of words. It cannot be measured. It will never be. Once they were done, we had a brief open discussion, and then almost as quickly, it was all over. Information was shared, books were bought, hugs were given, pictures taken. It was a wonderful afternoon of soul-bearing and life-altering. I wanted to stay within that building all night, but I knew I had to go, as one always does. God, I missed that place. God, I missed that town.